On a distant planet named Chiton, a woman gives birth while her husband, John, brings the baby to her. The couple is filled with emotion watching their newborn cry, but their joy is short-lived when they hear the roar of an approaching spaceship. Unsure of what to do, the woman suggests hiding the baby. Jan replies that hiding won't work. They'll still find him. She asks what other choice they have, and Jan says there's only one thing left. They both glance at the space pod nearby. As the spaceship begins to descend onto the tower, Jan hurries to enter coordinates into the pod. He chooses the United States, believing it's the most advanced region on Earth. The pod launches into the sky as the couple watches it leave with heavy hearts. Suddenly, the tower door slams open, and soldiers pour in. They make way for a man sitting inside a hovering egg-shaped chair, the dictator Skorba, who greets them coldly. While the pod continues its flight, the soldiers seize the couple. Skorba demands to know where John sent the baby. John refuses to give up the information. In response, Skorba threatens to push a button that would end everything. Just then, Skorba's daughter Agata steps forward and offers to help. Hoping to prove herself, Agata turns to Jan and reads his mind, discovering that he sent the pod to a blue planet called Earth. To earn her father's trust, Agata boards a space pod. Before taking off, Skorba reminds her he wants the baby alive. She promises to bring the child back and launches into space, eventually catching up to the baby's pod. But just as the pod nears Earth, it crashes into a satellite, knocking it off course. Agata lands in the United States, while the baby's pod ends up in Spain. Back on Earth, a couple named Juan and Maria are driving home when the baby's pod nearly crashes into their truck. They stop to investigate. And when the pod opens, they find the baby inside. Maria scoops him up and shows him to Juan. At first, Juan isn't thrilled, especially after noticing the baby's mustache. But once the baby grabs Juan's finger and bends it backward, making him scream, Juan begins to soften. They bring the baby home. Juan shaves off the mustache, but it instantly grows back. They decide to name him Juan, but lovingly call him Juanito and raise him as their own. As he grows, they discover he has super strength, enhanced vision, and incredible speed. He uses these powers from time to time, but the other kids find him strange because of it. One day, during a soccer game where Juanito plays goalie, he panics not knowing who to pass to. Feeling the pressure, he uses his super speed to score himself. Though he makes the goal, his teammates are far from pleased. Later, his father scolds him for showing off his abilities in public. On his birthday, Juanito waits outside for his friends, but no one shows up. Juan tries to cheer him up while Maria brings out the cake. Juanito confesses that his friends think he's weird. Juan tells him that people tear down anyone who stands out, especially in Spain. Maria encourages Juanito to make a wish. He closes his eyes, wishes to be normal, and blows out the candles, accidentally spraying cake all over his parents' faces. Fast forward 20 years, Juanito is now a grown man simply called Juan. He's sleeping on his couch when his phone rings. It's his friend and boss, Jaime, who assumes Juan is late for work again. Juan lies, but Jaime says he just checked, and Juan's clearly not home. Juan quickly claims he was in the bathroom, and Jaime orders him to get to the office immediately.
Juan scrambles to get dressed and somehow arrives before Jaime. When Jaime gets there, Juan pretends he's been working the whole time. He notices Jaime is wearing a new cologne and asks about it. Jaime says that's actually why he called Juan in. He's hired a new female employee who's starting today.
Juan shoots Jaime a disapproving look, telling him he can't treat the office like his personal dating app. But Jaime just shrugs, saying it's basically the same thing. He asks Juan to help plan a welcome party for the new hire, but Juan points out that no one else ever got a welcome party. Tired of the conversation, Juan walks off, telling Jaime he's going to grab some breakfast. At the vending machine, Juan tries to knock loose a stuck chocolate bar when he suddenly senses something outside. Using his super sight, he spots the new employee and realizes it's Luisa, a college friend. He buzzes her in, and she mistakes him for the receptionist. Jump to later. They're awkwardly throwing Luisa's welcome party, which ends up being just Juan, Jaime, and 2 janitors who are still hanging around after hours. Luisa finds the whole thing uncomfortable and excuses herself to go to the restroom. She ends up quietly leaving the party while Juan is out fetching more ice. Juan hurries to the train station, reaching the platform, only to find Luisa's not there. Suddenly, he hears her voice calling from the opposite side. He asks her if she'd like to grab dinner, but she turns him down as her train pulls in. As Luisa boards the train, she's startled to find Juan right behind her, casually asking if she likes olives. They end up at a pizza place, catching up and reminiscing about old times. But their moment is cut short when a group of loud teenagers barges in. Luisa suddenly yells at them to quiet down, then stands up and whacks one of them on the backside with her bag. One of the teens looks at Juan and challenges him, asking if he's gonna hit back. Juan tries to keep things calm, staying firm but non-aggressive. The teen threatens Juan, claiming he could knock him over with just a finger. Juan says that's not possible until it happens. One of the teens had crouched behind him, and Juan stumbles backward over him. Cut to Juan sitting at the train station, replaying his dad's birthday advice in his head. His thoughts are interrupted by an announcement for the last train. But suddenly, the train barrels past them. It can't stop. The brakes have failed. Juan sees a poster that says, "It's time. Take the step," and takes it as a sign to use his powers. He sprints to the next station, trying to stop the train, but fails. He runs to the next station, grabs a fire hose, and combines it with his strength to finally stop the train in time. He slips out of the station unnoticed, trying not to draw attention. Meanwhile, over in the US, Scorba's daughter Agatha has become a prominent figure and the founder of Chit Technologies. She's on stage presenting their latest invention, the Chitabot, a high-tech cleaning robot. Her presentation is interrupted when a staffer informs her that they've found him. She steps off stage to confirm, watching grainy surveillance footage. Though his face is unclear, it's enough to convince her. It's Jan's son. She decides to go meet him. By the next morning, news of the man who stopped the train is everywhere. In Juan's office, everyone is glued to the TV. Luisa scoffs at the idea of a Spanish hero and jokes that it's just a PR stunt. Juan tries to defend the guy. The news shifts focus. Agatha has arrived in their country, and the media is buzzing. On TV, she makes a public statement asking to meet the man who stopped the train. She says she believes they could accomplish great things together. Meanwhile, at Chit Technologies' headquarters in Barcelona, Agatha calls her father Scorba, telling him she's located Jan's son. Scorba immediately starts criticizing her, warning that if she doesn't have the boy ready by the time he gets there, he'll destroy Earth, and her with it. Back in Spain, Juan is on a bus running late for dinner with Luisa. He calls to let her know he's just a few minutes away. Suddenly, he hears a high-pitched ringing, something only he can hear. It's Agatha contacting him telepathically, though Juan mistakes it for the radio. Agatha tells him two things. First, not to bother replying, she can't hear him. Second, he needs to come see her, and she'll explain everything. Juan gets off the bus and heads straight to Agatha's office, where she's already waiting. He recognizes her immediately. The vacuum cleaner lady. Agatha tries to charm him, telling him they're the same, that they come from the same planet, but Juan isn't buying any of it. Right after, Juan starts to walk away, but not before Agatha quickly reads his thoughts and sees Luisa waiting for him. Realizing this, Agatha orders one of her guards to hold him down, but Juan easily overpowers the man. She sends more goons to try and capture him.
Dame. Perdona.
But Juan escapes again. Frustrated, Agatha decides to change her approach and instructs her team to collect Luisa's DNA, his obvious weakness. Back at the office, Jaime leaves a sticky note on Luisa's desk, unaware that the Chit brand vacuum cleaner nearby begins scanning the lipstick mark on her coffee cup. The strange sounds catch Jaime's attention. As he walks over, he sees a full-blown analysis being transmitted from the vacuum. Without warning, the vacuum goes rogue and attacks Jaime. Luckily, the two janitors are still around and help him destroy the machine. As soon as he gets free, Jaime calls Luisa to warn her. Meanwhile, Juan is slumped outside Luisa's apartment when he hears her voice behind him. He rushes to her, but she shuts him down, saying he left her waiting way too long at the restaurant. They argue. Luisa accuses him of playing games and says he should have just told her if he wasn't into her. Juan tries to explain something strange happened on the way there. Luisa, hurt and annoyed, lashes out at him. Across the street, Jaime sees them together and feels betrayed. At that moment, A Chit Technologies van rolls up behind Jaime. Agata's inside. Realizing Jaime has feelings for Luisa too, she offers him a deal. Help her, and she'll help him win Luisa's heart. Back at Juan's parents' house, he demands answers about his origin. His parents try to dodge the topic, but once Juan mentions a strange girl who wants to take him to another galaxy, they finally give in. They show him the space pod he arrived in. As Juan touches it, a hologram of his real father, John, activates. John introduces himself and shares the story of what happened on their home planet. Juan's skeptical, but John urges him to accept the truth about who he is. While this happens, his Earth mom digs through the pod and finds a small cloth with an S stitched on it. Cut to Juan now wearing a superhero suit that his mom stitched together from that cloth. The conversation turns to flying, so they decide it's time to put his skills to the test. They head to the rooftop. Juan tries a few warm-up moves. Eventually, his parents convince him to jump, only for him to fall flat on his face. Frustrated and embarrassed, Juan walks off and bumps into some neighborhood kids. They start teasing him until he starts to float in midair. The kids scream and run off. Juan flies around clumsily, crash landing in random places before finally making it home.
¡Ay, por Dios!
Later, Luisa shows up at his doorstep. She walks up and hugs him. She says she knows everything now, and they head to his room to talk it through. Luisa tries to vouch for Agata, saying maybe she's not all bad, but Juan cuts her off. There are more pressing issues like what happened the previous night. Unbeknownst to them, Agata has replaced Luisa with a doppelganger under Jaime's supervision. Jaime, feeling bitter, struggles with his emotions. But when Juan says he needs to talk to Jaime because they're still friends, Jaime's heart softens. Back in Juan's room, the fake Luisa suddenly attacks. Agata throws the first punch, and chaos erupts. Juan defends himself the best he can, but the fake Luisa has the upper hand. Juan's mom barges in with a shoe in hand and starts whacking the imposter. In the middle of the fight, Juan lands a hit that knocks off the fake Luisa's head, revealing the ruse. At the same time, Jaime decides he's had enough. He walks away from Agata's manipulation and warns Juan that Luisa is in danger. Agata is planning to use both Luisa and Jaime as bait. Back home, Juan's mom urges him to go save Luisa. He takes off into the sky and meets Luisa at the Arco de Triunfo. There, he questions her to make sure she's the real one. Once he's convinced, Luisa asks him what's really going on. Juan finally tells her everything. She doesn't believe him, until he offers to show proof. But just as he's about to, a couple of guys in cosplay suddenly show up and start a fight with him. While Juan is distracted, Agata's men swoop in and kidnap Luisa. They leave him a message. If he wants her back, he'll have to join Agata and her father, and help them rule the world. Wasting no time, Juan flies straight to Agata's headquarters. There, he finds Luisa and Jaime tied up. Luisa still doesn't believe he has any powers. Jaime urges Juan to show her. Prove it, once and for all. Juan activates his super sight and describes to Luisa exactly what she's wearing. As he's about to untie her, Agata triggers a high-pitched frequency that sends Juan collapsing to the floor in pain. Jaime and Luisa cheer him on, urging him to push through it. When that doesn't work, Jaime starts throwing insults at him, and Luisa notices that actually helps. The two begin hurling insults at Juan to fire him up. Meanwhile, Scorba's spaceship finally touches down on Earth. He meets Agata, brushing her off coldly, saying he's only here to see John's son. Agata leads her father and his troops to Juan's location. Back in the holding cell, Luisa and Jaime keep insulting Juan until he finally powers up and burns a hole through the wall, giving them a way out. At the same time, Scorba keeps criticizing Agata, comparing her to other family members and saying she's always come up short. Fed up, Agata lashes out by disconnecting his oxygen supply. As he takes his final breaths, Agata reads his thoughts, and finally receives the approval she's always wanted. With Scorba gone, Agata claims his throne and takes command of his forces. Meanwhile, Juan brings Luisa and Jaime back home. He's had enough. He decides he's done being a superhero and throws his suit into the fire. But peace doesn't last. Scorba's massive spaceship appears overhead, and Agata descends from it. Juan walks out to confront her, calmly saying he has no intention of going with her. Agata doesn't care. She says if he won't join her, she'll destroy Earth, starting with his hometown. She hits the button. Her egg-shaped vessel morphs into a towering robot, and a brutal fight breaks out. Juan's father, John, intervenes, only to get pulled into Agata's machine. Elsewhere, the three neighborhood kids watch the whole thing unfold from a distance. Juan gets slammed by Agata and crashes into a nearby soccer match, landing tangled in the net. Back at the family farm, Agata chases after Juan's mom. Juan returns just in time, but misfires the soccer net, accidentally trapping his mom. Agata captures her too. Juan gets pounded to the ground by the robot and stomped on repeatedly. Just as Agata's about to finish him off with her razor disc, Jaime runs out to distract her and ends up getting pulled into the robot as well. Then Luisa charges in, driving straight at Agata, yelling insults at Juan to snap him out of it. Jaime and Juan's parents join in, shouting at him too, trying to reignite his strength. Juan finally regains consciousness. Right as Agata tries to pull Luisa into the machine, Juan rips off the robot's arm. Now on the offensive, he delivers a flurry of punches. Luisa tells him to do what those kids did to him on their first date. She parks the truck near the pool, and as Agata approaches, Juan uses his freezing breath to push her in. The robot shorts out in the water. Jaime and the others swim to the surface. Juan rushes to check on them. He and Luisa embrace once again. His mom asks what he plans to do about his home planet, and Juan answers, "I've got a plan." Later, Scorba's ship returns to the planet Chiton, with Agata restrained. But when they unveil the figure on board, it's not Juan. It's one of the cosplay guys who fought him earlier. Cut to the next morning. Luisa turns off the alarm while Juan stretches and gets out of bed. He puts on his suit and flies through the city skies. A radio voice plays in the background, talking about how people still feel torn about this so-called hero. But Juan doesn't care. He's at peace, perched high on a statue. Sometime later, Luisa waits for Juan at a restaurant. He's late, again. They bicker about how he needs to make time for their relationship, not just superhero stuff. They eventually come to an understanding. Luisa tells him to pay the check, but the waiter informs them that someone at the bar already covered it. When they turn to look, they see a hooded man. He smirks and calls Juan Super Lopez, telling him he owes him, then pops a pacifier into his mouth and vanishes. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.